Pucker up, Buttercup. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. We are the Focus Group. Find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East on our Facebook feed or wherever you find your shows that you like, podcasts, or whatever you want to call us. You can find us everywhere at focusgroupradio.com. And, of course, you could also find a Tuesday podcast there, which is also called TFG Unbuttoned. On today's show, if you're not familiar, or if you're new to joining us and you're not familiar with our format, John and I do a little bit of catch-up, and then we do our banter and a story that caught our eye during the week. And then we do a sponsor segment usually, or another story that may come about. We take a quick break. We do a business birthday. We're the only show in the universe that covers business birthdays. And then we do a segment we call Shop Talk. And so my tease about Pucker Up Buttercup has to do with Shop Talk and the sales of lipstick that we're going to talk about later at the very end of the show. So,
you forgot to mention that at the halfway mark we also offer a nap time. Did you
and a snack.
And a snack. I was reminded of this by a conversation with my mom recently. I had this weird flashback. Do you remember the cereal Trix? TRI.
Yes.
Tricks are for kids. I think there's some crazy animal associated with it. One year we were never allowed too much of the sugar cereals, but one year we had Trix in the household, and the prize inside, remember all the toys you get inside the cereal box, was a whistle of some sort. And I brought it to, I want to say it was nursery school. Did we do nursery school before first grade? Do you have a memory of this?
I had kindergarten, but I didn't have nursery school. You went to nursery school?
No.
You must have been a wealthy family.
Maybe it was kindergarten. Did you have nap time in kindergarten?
Yes.
Okay.
So 10 o'clock, 10:30.
Then it was kindergarten I went to. So one time I went to kindergarten with my Trix whistle. It was my pride and joy. And nap time came, and you had to pull a rug out, like some kind of little rug that you rolled out on the floor. You lay down for, I don't know, almost maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. I forget how long it was. But when nap time was over, the Trix whistle was gone. Caused a scandal.
What happened to the whistle?
We never really found out. It just was not available for show and tell later. So Trix whistle was gone. And I mentioned it to my mom, and she said, oh, sweetie, I remember how heartbroken you were over that plastic whistle. Just by saying plastic in front of whistle, she made it seem like some cheap little thing I was obsessed with. And I just thought that was very funny when she did that. Oh, you're that plastic whistle. Didn't you get that in a cereal box?
Were you blowing it?
No, I just brought it to school and showed some kids at recess.
Some kids stole it, probably.
Someone wanted that Trix whistle, yeah. So a little memory lane back to kindergarten, yeah. And I guess, Tim, you're right. Nursery school was something like do they even call it that nowadays? Is it called pre-K? I guess nursery school is pre-K, right?
Yeah, I guess. Or they send kids to it. You usually went to nursery school. I thought if you were wealthy, it's like a babysitter.
Yeah, well,
right?
Yeah, because it was pre-school. So yeah,
right. I stayed home with either my grandparent, I guess, or my mom. And my mom went to work after we were old enough to be given a key to let ourselves in. And then we had a list of chores. We were very, very... I was talking to my mother about it the other day. We had a whole list of chores. I'm surprised I got homework done. We had to bring in firewood, take laundry off the line. There was lots to get the stove started, get dinner ready. It's a whole list of things before the day, before they got home from work.
The other thing that we went to a winery upstate on Sunday and we saw some friends for the first time we haven't seen in a long time, and we were having a funny conversation, which I have with our age group a great deal, about what we did as kids and how far-ranging we were. And I said to this woman, Susan, that I recently realized that the pharmacy that we used to go to for penny candy was at least 2.5 miles from the house, which is not a small amount. It's not a small distance as far as kids are concerned. And I thought, I know the road we used to walk down, the paths through the woods, that walk by the river, get to the store. We'd buy the Atomic Fireball was one of my favorite. Pixie sticks, you want to send yourself to the moon, pour one of those things in your mouth really quick. I never liked the wax stuff, the lips or the bottles with the liquid in it.
Yeah.
And then we were laughing about other candy, but we all said the same thing. We were usually told to leave the house and not come home until dinner time. If it was after lunch, it was like, we come home for dinner. And we're talking about a radius of 2 miles around your household, right?
All you have to do is watch an old rerun of Dennis the Menace. The family has no idea where he is at any given time. They have no idea where he is. They're asking neighbors, have you seen Dennis? Have you seen Dennis? Nobody knows where he is. He's downtown raising havoc. I mean, they have no idea where he is. And he's out at somebody's house. He's doing something. But that's kind of the way it was, right? You were out on your bike, or you're out walking, or you're at a friend's house. And there was none of this constant contact. But I guess neighbors looked out for you. And
yes, they did. Yeah.
It was and you made your own fun, I guess. I don't know.
And my mom also told me that, and I didn't know this until recently, that the pharmacist, Lou, from the pharmacy we used to go to get our candy and my Richie Rich comic books or superhero stuff, he would call he'd call the house. Hey, Carol, I just want you to know the kids are down here picking up candy and comic books. Okay, thanks, Lou, thanks. So there was a bit of an informal network, right, of letting us, I just thought it was a fun thing. As summer approaches, I do have fond memories of running far and wide as a kid, although far and wide turns out to be a 2.5 mile radius. It's not so far and wide.
One of my memories I still remember threatening to run away, and my mother finally called my bluff, and she found the biggest suitcase she possibly could find, probably bigger than me. And she says, I'll help you pack. So we pack. And the more I say I'm running away, the more she's like, well, you're going to need underwear. It might get cold later on. She's packing all my clothes and I'm crying. The more she's helping me pack, the harder I'm crying. And I'm loading up this huge suitcase with all my clothes out of the dresser, and I'm getting it down the stairs, bang, bang, bang. I couldn't even carry it. And she's at the doorway waving goodbye. Let us know where you end up. She's waving goodbye.
Did your mom really do that?
Oh yeah, I'm dragging it down the street crying. She doesn't care. I made it like a house and a half away at a friend's house to drag the suitcase to there, and decided that was about as far as I was going. And ended up coming back later. But I still remember packing. Okay, you want to leave? Go. Let us know where you end up.
I think our parents were extremely wise. Even though they had no manuals that were delivered when we came into their lives, they definitely figured out that we were. I love that story. And the fact that your mom took she could have taken a steamer trunk, for God's sakes, right? And
it was just about it was this huge plaid, and I remember it was like this red plaid suit, from the 60s and sort of thing, the big zipper, and they didn't have wheels then.
I remember.
It was this huge thing, and it's like clang, clang, clang down the step, and I still remember her still at the screen door and waving goodbye, with like,
let us know.
Let us know where you end up.
There you go.
But, that's the way it goes. So what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Another one of these. Guess what? You inherited multi-million dollars in this case, it's trading cards. So I always find these stories to be really, really remarkable, because I wish there was something in my life I could pick up, like an old deck of Star Wars trading cards and the tops. Remember that came with that icky gum in it? And kind of like, wow, I'm set. But no. So let me get the graphic up here. So it's in Florida, and a doctor who passed away in the last few months left his family with a sports card collection that's estimated to be worth about $20 million.
Oh my!
Yeah.
God. Are you kidding me?
It's among the prized collectibles is a 1933 Babe Ruth. His name comes up a lot when I see these Babe Ruth cards. Come up a lot when I see something on like the Antiques Roadshow or some of these things where people are making millions off cards. The gentleman's name was Dr. Thomas Newman, and he assembled the collection over about a 4-decade period before he died in January this past year. Some of the sports memorabilia that he did collect, the memorabilia, dates back to 1880. No one enjoyed collecting more than Tom, his widow Nancy said in a statement. He jokingly called his cards his paper babies and spent almost every day attending to his collection in one way or another. It gave him a great deal of pleasure. His son Stuart said his dad began collecting cards in the 80s. He started with cards from 1957 and 59 in an attempt to replace cards that his mother threw away when he was a young boy. Does that not sound familiar? So I guess he had a ball card collection when he was a kid, and Mom got into it and threw some stuff away. Stewart said he would often travel his father across the country to attend the annual National Sports Collectors Convention. I did not know this existed. It makes sense. The only downside is that I never got a lunch break because he was on the go from the minute we entered the convention hall. So Dr. Newman, this is how his methodology went. If he paid $500 for a card he really wanted, and a week later someone offered him $5,000, he'd turn it down. He just had an unquenchable thirst for sports collectibles. So Cohen's firm is this. Oh, I forgot to mention this guy Cohen. Where is he at now? J.P. Cohen is the president of Memory Lane Auctions, and his firm is offering more than 1,000 vintage cards from the different sports and other sporting memorabilia on June 21st, and the doctor's collection is going to be in there, and it includes a 1952 Mickey Mantle card that could sell for more than $1 million. Now, see, I'm blown away. Old program books and cards of Hall of Fame players Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, and Cy Young. More names that pop up all the time. Earlier this year, a rare Mickey Mantle card was sold for a record-breaking $5.2 million, the highest ever paid for a baseball card. So it's going to go on the block soon, and they do think, the auction house thinks they're looking at $20 million for the entire collection, and there you have it. I'm kind of blown away, right?
Wow. Do you think he knew it was worth that much money?
Yeah, I do. Well, especially when the son talked a bit further about the fact that his dad just loved the cards, and he would buy a rare card and get offered something a month later or 2 months later, an astounding amount of money, but the dad's like, I want a complete collection. It's a collection. That's all there is to it. I'm not doing it now to make money. I'm doing it because I love collecting the cards. So I think he knew the value of it, but he wasn't necessarily looking forward to cashing in on it in his lifetime, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you inherited something like that,
I'd sell it.
Would you?
I'd sell it. Yeah.
I didn't even get a chance to ask.
Do you and Richard ever watch the Antiques Roadshow?
Yes. Matt used to watch it religiously. So when I lived with Matt had it on all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, kind of on all the time. But I'm always waiting for that, like you, waiting for that one
Declaration
thing.
of Independence behind some picture of a schoolhouse. Yeah. We watch it because sometimes it's the most neutral and relaxing thing to watch on TV if you don't want to see the news. And every time something comes up or someone brings in something, like one of our favorites was a Navajo rug. I forget how old it was.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Someone bought it for like $25 at a garage sale. It was worth $45,000. We scream at the TV, sell it! Because if they've never used it and they're not going to miss it, get the money, right?
Right. I love the time. Do you remember the one where the guy brought in the cigar store Indian?
Yes.
And said it was worth whatever, millions or whatever. Well, you should have taken it. It's worth about $90. Whatever. I still remember that because this guy made this big story up about it, and the auctioneer or whatever, the expert's like, not really. Yeah. It's a fake.
And that's sometimes the Antique Roadshow does that thing where what it was worth 10 years ago, or someday, or the music goes up like it's worth more. All right, sorry about that.
Wow, no. It's I would do the same thing. I would sell it, because if you're not going to use it, $20 million is a pretty big find.
Huge number. You could, you're set. You're set.
But that's the sort of thing too, though. Somebody might just throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, baseball cards tossed
out of
collection.
Out of no other thing than they might have a sense of value. Yeah.
Yeah. No idea. My caught my eye was a different one. Obviously, they're always different. The headline is Jeopardy contestant Kelly Donahue denies white supremacy ties. So recently there was a contestant on Jeopardy. His name was Kelly Donahue, and he was his third. It was his third. He'd won 3 nights in a row. And so he was a Jeopardy winner. So he made a hand gesture on the show, and it sparked a controversy from some of the other former contestants. And this to me is where this kind of cancel culture has run amok. So when he was introduced, and John, if you're watching on the video, John will show the picture. So his first night when he won, they said, he won last night. He put up 1 finger. The second time he was on, he did 2. And then his third night when he was there, he did 3. And the 3 that he holds up, he had done kind of like the OK symbol, but showed his 3 fingers. And so he hid his index finger and his thumb. And a number of activists and I guess former contestants had accused him of making this white supremacist symbol. And And he said, in fact, that's not what he was doing. He was doing, if you watch the show, you would know he was doing 1, 2, and this was his third time up to be a third-time winner. And so they sent this note to Jeopardy and accused him of this, of holding his hand in this symbol. And I just thought this has really gotten out of control. I don't know what your thought was about this.
We watched him. We watched him win, and we watched him do the hand symbol every day. I gave no thought to it because the guy, did you know his profession? I think he's so far removed from what I would think somebody would be doing this, right?
Right. Yeah, they said when he was introduced by the popular game show's longtime announcer, Johnny Gilbert, as having won 3 games, the Boston College alum held his thumb and forefinger together with the other 3 fingers extended and palm facing inward as he tapped his chest. And he's a Massachusetts State Bank examiner.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when he was criticized for making this white supremacist symbol, he immediately went to Facebook and said, "That's not what I was doing." The Anti-Defamation League got involved. Then there was all kinds of nasty posts about him, about this racist gesture. And this was a dog whistle, and the show should be ashamed of itself, and this is taped earlier. They should take it down. Are you prepared for all the backlash? And then they accused him of responding with a racist answer to a clue. And why I thought this was, first of all, I thought it was out of control because of the 1, 2, 3. The other thing is, I often, and there's another picture John has of rowing hands that are all beat up. And so when I rowed crew, some of you listen to the show for a long time, I used to row in college quite a bit. And where I sat on the boat, my index finger and my thumb hit the gunnels all the time. And they're damaged.
Ouch.
My cuticles are really damaged on my index finger and my thumb, and I'm embarrassed by it. And they bled all the time.
Oh my God!
And so
it doesn't sound like a sport at all. It sounds like a torture chamber.
Well, so that's why I showed. I mean, I didn't show anybody with nails, but guys that row. Now this guy's hands are too blistered, I think, because he probably held the oar too tight or whatever. But your hands do get beat up from rowing, and so I often will, if I'm pointing to something, sometimes I'll point like that, just because I want to hide my nails that are messed up.
Okay.
And you may have seen me sometimes if I'm pointing to a paper or something. I've done that with us in meetings because I'm embarrassed. I'm self-conscious about the fact that I've got these screwed up nails. I've been to doctors. They've tried to fix it. They've thought you could take the nail off, but they said you've essentially damaged the nail bed on your 2 thumbs and your 2 index fingers. And so I'm very self-conscious about this. So I could definitely see me doing this too. I would not hold up my 2 fingers because of the damage to them. So I could see where I could be blamed, just like this guy was. And that's why I thought this had caught my eyes, because he very innocently, I think, held up 3 fingers. It's been, they've had people investigate it. They've in fact said he's not a racist. They can't find anything in his background that says he's a racist, but he's been accused of being it. And, once the horse is out of the barn, I guess.
That's a good one. I like that. Haven't heard that in a while.
But, what do you do, right?
It's ridiculous. And his comeback, by the way, he did have a response, and it's exactly what you said. He had frame grabs from his multiple days on the show, and he simply said, "I'm marking off my victories. 1, 2, 3." It's as simple as that, folks. There's no need to read into it beyond what you're seeing. And that's exactly what went on here is, look, he must be signaling us. I was equally as flummoxed and mortified as you were about it. Good call.
But it's why people get upset about this whole cancel culture, and it has run amok, and I could see where people get aggravated with it. Which leads us to this other story. I don't know. We both had found this one about this. So Lego's come out with a new Pride set, and the conservatives are whining about it, and Fox News are all tuned up on it. So Lego recently announced that they're in their first ever rainbow set in honor of Pride Month. And again, if you're watching, John will show a picture of it. But it's essentially this set that is all the different colors of the rainbow with different characters. They're all faceless, but different hairdos and different colors to show the spectrum of and to celebrate Pride as we go into June. And, of course, the religious pundits are all tuned up about it. But then what they've done is, because they've then added a black and brown character, which kind of mimics what Philadelphia's done with the flag, it's immediately become a racial issue, which many of us know the flag was not initially about race. It was about about light and love and heart and those sort of things. So now we've moved it into, we've given even more ammunition to make it about a racial thing, which is tuned up Fox and some of the other religious rights. So I didn't know what you thought about this Lego set.
Whenever I got to a sentence where somebody said the following, due to programs that product Fox News host, here it is. Fox News host and extreme conservative Will Cain compared the Lego Pride set to former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke. Cain said the color-coding toy looks like Duke could have designed it. Cain made these comments in a segment called The Left's Push for Racial Division, and he then invoked Martin Luther King Jr., who he claimed would never have supported the Lego set. What are we talking about here, folks? We're talking about some molded plastic that comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 colors, right?
Yeah.
And everybody is up in arms over molded plastic from Lego for kids to play with in honor of Pride Month. They don't live in boxes and they're not under rocks. Most people understand, at least in the U.S., that June is Pride Month. The characters, as Tim mentioned from the article, are faceless, genderless. They're just those minifigs, they call them, that Lego does. Really, really innocuous, in my opinion. Yet you throw this is like red meat, right? Red meat. We're going to get them on the Lego. It just makes no sense.
But I think what's happened is, and this is the controversy now, I'm told because I'm a white male that I don't get it. So, but this is, I think, what's led to this is that when they decided to change the rainbow flag, and some people say it's fine because there's lots of issues of ignoring the people of color within the LGBTQ movement. So there was some issues of bringing that to the attention. But by doing this with the Lego characters, it's now given fodder to Fox News and the other people to make Pride about a racial issue and racial disparity rather than
division.
And division rather than it being about acceptance and inclusion. They moved it the other way, and I thought here once again we've given them a loaded gun, and they're going to shoot it, and
without fail, right? And in the end, I believe we're talking about a product that cost what was it, $34.99.
$35.
$35. And Lego's just like, we're proud to show this fun toy for kids to play with. They didn't see this. They didn't see this as a problem coming up, and I hope they ignore it, frankly, because I hope it does go away on its own. It just is so crazy. All right, we are nearing the end of the first half of our marathon here at the Focus Group, right, Tim? It's not a marathon; it's a joyride. And we're going to take a really quick break, and on the second half of the show, we're going to be tackling a business birthday and some shop talks. So by all means, stay with us, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Focus Group. Hello to our friends out in Palm Springs and at the iHub Network. And I actually had somebody ask us if we were going to be doing. They thought we should do some live shows here from Rehoboth at the radio station.
I would love to do so. Didn't we already have a spot picked out?
Yeah, well, the Sandcastle. Guests of the Focus Group stay at the Sandcastle. Rehoboth's only 2-star
hotel.
We
should let people know that when Tim started, when Tim got his beautiful home down in Rehoboth, he invited us down, me and Bob, and we also got to hang out with his friends Mark and Carl, and we went to the Sea Witch, which was this end of season because it was October-ish.
Yeah, it's the end of October. And it was make believe end of the season parade.
And it was a beautiful day, and we were standing on the corner in front of this hotel, and that's when Tim and I came up with this shtick of, come visit the only 2-star hotel. Like
Guests of the focus group stay at the Satin Castle. Rehoboth's only 2-star. Well, so the Sea Witch, and the end of the parade is this kind of paper mache witch that comes down comes down Rehoboth Avenue, and that signals the end of the beach season. And thousands of people come from all over. There's drones, there's helicopters. It's
it's pretty fun. We had
bands.
We had an amazing time. So I would like to do Sea Witch again because it. Especially if it happens this year, we would hope that a lot of people would be vaccinated. We'll have the event sort of happening.
It will happen. And we tried to convince Volkswagen. I mean, why? Again, we tried to convince Volkswagen to be in the parade number. They
didn't get Sea Witch. They're just like, what are you guys talking about?
Maybe we'll convince someone else. Hey, before we get to our business birthday, I had a quick question for you. What do you think about this whole Belarus thing where they hijacked that plane to arrest that blogger? Crazy?
I saw a picture of the jet on the tarmac and luggage all over they were literally emptying out the cargo hold to get his baggage. Yeah, I was surprised by that. I was like, wow, where'd that come from?
Fake bomb scare.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody else was in office, he'd have been right there with him. I mean, that would have been his buddy. They're one and the same.
Oh, and hey, all you listeners, good work. Last week we gave away, during our deep discount read, we gave away copies of Supernova, which stars Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci. And I'd say, yeah, we had some great guesses and we had a lot of winners. So you'll see discs in the mail shortly. Let's say that.
Did we have some new winners, or
yes, and yes. Some of you know. Some of you, Chris, I'm talking to you. You are a movie guy, and you are great with movie quotes. And then there are some names I haven't seen before, which I was really happy about. So,
good. So we'll do our business birthday now.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
I picked this birthday for you, John, because sometimes I wonder whether it's a business birthday or not. But you said career counts too, and so and this person certainly has made a lot of money in business as his career. So
he's changed the culture. Say his name again.
Matthew Richard Stone, born May 26th, born today, 1971. Happy 50th! Can't believe he's 50. He's the American actor, voice actor, animator, writer, producer, and composer. But of course, you know him most as the co-creator of South Park and also co-developer of the Book of Mormon, along with his creative partner, Trey Parker. And I mean, talk about people that have changed, well, as you said, have changed culture. But before we get into do you think could South Park be done with live people or real people?
You and I analyze this all the time, and our personal, I know I'm going to be speaking for you now, but our personal conclusion is it's animated and it works because if a real person said half the stuff these kids said, you want the culture, the cancel culture mob, get the pitchfork. It's like Shrek, get the pitchforks and knives. It's because because they're not real, right? And the fact that Kenny, that one Kenny, the one that mumbles all the time, he used to die in every episode, so. They really pulled this one off. And yes, he is a legitimate business birthday because of all the work he's done. There's no doubt about it.
And did you see the Book of Mormon on Broadway?
Oh, we wanted to see it so bad. And the tickets were insanely expensive for so long. And even when some of the primary cast moved to either do the road show or moved on to other shows, they were still super expensive. If it comes back, when Broadway comes back, I think I'm going to treat myself because I hear it is hilarious.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as well. So as a child, Stone was interested in film and music, and he was born in Houston, grew up in Colorado, attended the University of Colorado in Boulder, and that's where he met his friend Trey Parker. And they collaborated on various films over the years. And they moved to Los Angeles. And but his dad, even growing up, when his dad was an economics professor. And his dad's name was Gerald. His mom's name was Sheila, which are actually two of the South Park characters, Gerald and Sheila, are named after them.
I did not know that. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and his father was worried that he'd become a musician and a bum. So his father insisted that his son major in something practical. So they compromised, and they allowed him to major in mathematics and film at school. So we can imagine that, the major, math and film. I majored in math and film.
Yeah.
So he had a double major in 1993 when he graduated. But they struggled for a number of years, he and Parker. They tried to make a number of different sort of films, and had some kind of what they felt were cult movies and cult productions that they did. Some of them they did kind of fly by night and would raise some money, but nothing ever really caught on until they lived out in Los Angeles, and they had submitted something to Fox, and it didn't go anywhere. But the Fox executive at the time, Brian Graydon, had cut his own personal check to them to do he said for a few $1,000 to produce a video greeting card that he wanted to give to friends. And it was going to be based off an earlier short they did about Jesus versus Frosty. So they sent it to him sent to them, and then it ended up going on VHS, and it made its way around Hollywood and became what they consider now to be one of the very first viral videos.
Yep.
And they said, due to the popularity of that, of course, South Park was born. And they had the choice they entered into negotiations with MTV or Comedy Central. They decided that they thought MTV might ruin it and turn it into a kids show. So they'd gone with Comedy Central, but essentially put Comedy Central on the map and really saved Comedy Central and really helped that fledgling network. Do you remember how much it cost them to do the first episode? Do you remember that? I know you know a lot about
the one that was sent around as a Christmas thing.
The pilot episode for South Park.
Why do I think it was like $1,500, or it was dirt cheap, if I remember?
Well, that was probably the greeting card thing. But the very first I guess the first 23-minute or whatever episode was $300,000.
Wow. Okay.
That they did. So they said all their animation they originally started. They did it in a place called Celluloid Studios in Denver, and it took them a while. It took them 3.5 months to complete the very first pilot. And then they did a bunch of these similar. So this was probably the one you're talking about. That was $1,500. They wanted to do it exactly the same, which was cut paper stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
So was it just construction paper? Kind of.
Yeah, they cut the shapes of the characters, and then they arranged them, photograph a frame, move them slightly, photograph a frame. So that's the stop motion part, and obviously the construction paper, cut paper thing is how they did it.
Right. Everything was, based upon the town of Colorado. They felt was always these kind of cattle mutilations and UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings. So that's how they came up with the town of South Park. The show was immediately, they said, consistently brought in 3.5 to 5.5 million viewers, and it really transformed the network, as I said. And even before they said the show took off, they made millions of dollars on merchandise. They made $30 million on T-shirts before the first episode even aired, and the promotion up to it. But of course, now over the years, it made hundreds of millions of dollars. They did say, though, that it brought them a lifestyle that involved a little too much women and a little too much partying. They said they had a lot of out-of-control binges in Vegas. They also had a philosophy that they would then take every deal offered, because they were never really quite sure and trusting their early success. So whenever they were given a deal, they'd take it. And they would make every appearance that they were asked to do, every film, every album, every script. And then they finally stopped that. But they would pretty much anytime anything was offered, they would do it. And then they go through a list of other movies. Another one of our favorites, of course, was Team America.
Don't you think that's one of the, that's kind of one, didn't we want to do something with Team America as a focus group? Kind of, that's the film you had to have. It was
right.
Like your pass card or something. Team America, the puppet movie, just beyond, right?
It said it was very hard for them to do it. They said in some cases, some characters took over 4 marionettes just to do the basic little moves of that film. Stone said he described making of Team America as the worst time of his life.
That's so surprising. It's one of our favorite films, right? It's just so funny.
He said he had to resort to drinking coffee, working 20-hour days, and using sleeping pills in order to rest. He said they barely got it completed on time, and it made a modest amount of money at the box office. And then they talk about the success of the Book of Mormon, of how many awards it won, and the cast recordings and the amount of Tonys and Grammys and so forth. He describes himself as ethnically Jewish on the account of his mother being Jewish. He self-identifies as an atheist, however. Politically, he describes himself as a libertarian, but he says, I hate conservatives, but I really effing hate liberals.
Now,
happy 50th, Matt Stone.
Matt Stone. Now, Trey Parker, I may be wrong, but I think one of them is Trey might be the gay part. He's gay, LGBT.
Well, he may be. Matt's married to a woman. A former executive or an executive from Comedy Central that he met named Angela. He's married to her, and he's not gay, but maybe Trey is. I didn't do any research on Trey.
No, because it was Matt Stone's birthday, and what a great birthday. But you could see as you went off the litany of his accomplishments that he deserves to be a business birthday. I mean, Broadway show, movie, guest appearance, like album, bump, up, 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 bump. May any of us be as prolific and creative as him, right, in our careers.
Some of the things, and you know what I love, so they said they got South Park down, which they felt made it very much topical and even more edgy. They made a deal to get each episode down to a week, so it's going to be written and produced within a week. And that's why they're so timely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the stuff, I can't believe some of the things they get away with.
Within days of an event happening, right? It's like,
Yes.
oh my God, how'd they pull this off? Well, you just answered it. They got the production cycle down to 7 days. Amazing. For
Yeah.
animation, it's
Yeah.
almost impossible, but
Yeah, and some of the stuff, I envy them because they say, I think, what a lot of people sometimes are thinking. There's some
Yep.
there's some great episodes. I mean, the whole one about, what was the one where the whole one about Cruz and everybody coming out of the closet, that they're locked in the closets in South Park. Remember that one?
Yeah, and it was all literally a play on literally being locked in a closet, but they lampooned everybody. And of course, then they had this whole thing with Tegrity weed.
Yeah.
Tegrity is for integrity. and yeah, it's I can still watch the new episodes and pick right up and laugh hysterically.
Yeah.
And there are some
No,
classics.
they're very funny. So happy birthday, Matt Stone. So so our shop talk this week, Mr. John, there's 3 stories, and the first one, it had a lot of different stats in it, but it said almost a quarter of all workers say that they know LGBTQ employees are treated unfairly. And so when I started reading this, I was trying to figure out where exactly they were going to. But this was a study done by the Williams Institute and Thomson Reuters. And they said they published the results that show that a large percentage of Americans believe LGBTQ people are treated worse than straight people in several major aspects of modern life. So they looked, they did the workplace, but then they looked at other areas as well. The one piece of data that I pulled out of here that I thought was interesting, in our work, I think you had come up with the number years ago, but you would use the number 7%, I think, in terms of LGBTQ people who identify.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they found here many times people will use 6. What was it, 10%?
10 was the normal, yeah.
But I laughed here because I thought you were pretty adamant about 7, and this here says the survey found that approximately 6%. So you were actually more onto it than maybe some of the other supposedly experts, right?
Well, you and I both had a philosophy about this. The 1 in 10 came from the Kinsey studies, that 10% of the population was probably LGBTQ. And then because of our business experience, you and I both know that the 10 was a number that seemed maybe realistic as a stat, but not in the real world per se. And some people had the number down at 2 or 3. And then you said one day, you're like, well, if people have to self-report who they are, it's unlikely that given the political climate that someone would raise their hand and say, I'm gay, right?
Right.
And so we put the number more at 6, 7. 7 was a number that I was very comfortable with based on the data that I would see and the responses we would get from our campaigns. So I'm glad you picked up on that, because I did too. I'm like, oh, someone's picked up on the real number. So 6 is close. 7's better. I think a lot of the stats in here were, I don't want to call it a word jumble, but it went quickly from workplace inequalities to perceptions of the law enforcement stopping LGBTQ people or getting involved, or healthcare issues. I guess it just, if you wanted to round this entire thing into one nice little package with a bow on it, data still suggests that LGBTQ individuals are in a position where they're going to be discriminated against in a number of situations. It could be work, it could be an encounter with law enforcement, it could be healthcare, it could be school. But no matter how you look at it, we still got a way to go on
Right.
acceptance. I guess, is that a good way to?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I expected this when I started reading it, that this was all going to be about the workplace,
Yeah.
which it changed quickly, and it was just about acceptance overall. And I think the issue here is, And I think maybe we're all guilty of it. Is kind of the slurs or the jokes, and you hear
Mm-hmm.
jokes, or you call somebody a queer or a fag, or kids in the school ground. You make fun of somebody, but you use it as a slur, which you certainly wouldn't do from a racial standpoint anymore, and have it be acceptable. But I think it's still okay to, or it appears to still be okay, or it's heard without any punishment to still say things that are anti LGBTQ, and it's I don't want to say it's accepted, but
Oh, it's
it's
hard.
heard, and it's
It's hardwired into the culture sometimes. We were watching a
yeah,
black and white movie from like 19, God, was it 30 something or 40 something? And it was about a guy that buys a dry cleaning establishment. He used to run a fabric company. It was like a 60-minute film. Well, there was a character in the movie who worked for him when he owned the fabric company called Mr. Rosewater. And he was clearly depicted as being gay. And
right.
every character would be like, well, that's Rosewater. We don't know what his story is. And it was almost like as if a laugh track were accompanying it. But that's it's been in the culture. It's going to be a while before it gets unraveled.
Right. The another story here that, and I often am critical about the percentage game, particularly when it comes to trying to do right by looking at percentages all the time. So this headline is McDonald's will more than double ad spend with diverse-owned companies. So my first off when reading this, I thought, well,
Well, from 1 to 2.
McDonald's, of all places, but it says McDonald's is promising to more than double its U.S. investment in diverse-owned media companies, production shops, and content creators by 2024. Over the next 4 years, it will increase its U.S. advertising spending with platforms owned by Black, Hispanic, Asian American, female, and LGBTQ people from 4% to 10%. Additionally, the world's largest restaurant company will be forming multi-year partnerships with diverse-owned media entities. First off, I thought, hello, it's 1972. I want my story back. I mean, I thought, is this
Ring, ring.
2021?
Ring, ring. Last century here. Hi.
Right? I mean, are you in 4% to 10%? I thought, well, I don't know. It was as shocking as when you and I knew somebody that was at a very major automotive brand that said that they had released, they used the recession, the last recession, and what was it, 2006 or
No,
7,
8 and
8-ish.
9, 2008 and 9, and they literally
It was an
cleaned
excuse
house.
to get
Yeah.
rid of all their diverse agencies.
And they
It
said
was an
it like that, like we're gonna use this clean house. We got to
Yep.
reset the marketing deck. I'm glad you found this, and the numbers that they were talking about in here, as Tim pointed out, are, I don't want to call them infinitesimal. They could make a huge difference to small agencies and media companies that specialize in reaching the markets that we were just talking about, African American, Hispanic, LGBTQ. But for a company as large as McDonald's, getting to this point in 2021 is a bit of a head scratcher to me. But it could also be because there's the national brand, and then there's this idea of the franchises. So maybe that's hooked into here too. Like, franchises can do what they want, supposedly, right? I mean, they have the branding and they have the marketing, but they can say, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that.
Where the hell have you been? No, I mean, I don't give them a pass at this at all.
Oh, okay.
Of all brands, I think McDonald's. I mean, it's shameful and it's embarrassing, and they've made a lot of money off the backs of
All the
minority
people, yeah.
populations, and particularly workers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought this was insulting. Now, I want a piece of the pie. How do we get in?
You
Right?
better start liking the McChicken.
No, but you know what I mean? If,
Yeah.
if you're going to spend money, I mean, how many years have you and I thought, I mean, McDonald's has been a Target. You can't even get in the door.
No.
And so, it's great that you want to spend some money, but how are you going to do it? And are you going to be realistic in choosing agencies? And they're going to do panels, and they're going to do this and that, and they're going to jerk everybody off. But at the end of the day, are they going to do something? And then it goes down further and talks about how they've had some issues with some minority-owned franchisees about maybe, perhaps steering them wrong, which I was also kind of scratched my head about, because, again, I thought if any company was a bit progressive, I would have expected it to be McDonald's. So this story to me did not put them in a very good light, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But then it goes on to General Motors, and another one that was a head scratcher was Hyundai America. They're now talking about all these other companies that are now getting on the bandwagon to decide they're going to start having some multicultural commitments. Hyundai Motor America hired its first ever African American marketing agency of record.
I picked that one up. I was like, just now?
Again, hello.
Hello. Yeah, we've been doing it for years. Well, you and I have been doing it for decades, not individual numbers, but decades, right? Anyway, let's leave.
I mean, all group of them, right? I mean, for God's sakes. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy, but that was the way it is. So we'll move off to that story to one of my favorite ones, which was our tease this week, John. Lipstick sales have jumped more than 80% now that the event's over.
This is a feel good. I think this is a feel good story. Because people
now that we're taking our masks off, lipstick sales have hit 34.2 million in the 4 weeks ending April 18th, and they've jumped up 80%. And there's, so you're going to expect now people are going to be happy. It's instant gratification. They're going to feel good. They're going to show their face, and they're going to get a little pick me up with lipsticks. And what are the popular colors going to be, John?
I think it was going to be vivid shades are going to be the popular ones, if I got this correct. And the vivid shades are orange, bright pinks, magenta, and purple. And I also think that I read this correctly, that the satin finish, I didn't know lipsticks had satin or gloss, but he shows us you and I don't wear it. But satin finish is going to be the look moving forward. And it should be noted, as Tim said earlier, that the sales are up 80% over the same period of last year, but they still are far below pre-event levels of over 40 million. So we got to get more lipsticks sold to get up to where it was before. But I thought this was a fun piece because it's one of those metrics that economists like to use. They call it a sideways metric. And this is this is like a consumer behavior that speaks to larger things. And buying lipstick so you can show your face means we're moving in the direction of not wearing masks and having our faces out there again, which I think is great.
Positive.
It's all positive. See, Tim, we went from a little roller coaster ride this second half of the show and McDonald's, and now we're at lipstick.
I will tell you a quick thing I saw on Instagram. I don't know if you saw this. So one of the new trends with these younger men is getting their lips tattooed kind of like they're wearing lipstick. Have you seen that? I should send it to you.
Please do. I have not seen it.
It was a little creepy. And the guy looked good, but he almost looked a little... Anyway, they're tattooing their lips to make it look like they're wearing some sort of like a shiny lipstick. And
wow.
He was a very handsome guy before it. Anyway, I'll send it to you.
Thank you. And on that note, folks, we're going to wrap up the show today. Thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. As Tim mentioned earlier in the show, focusgroupradio.com is the URL for our show. Everything's housed there, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, which is sometimes we call it a little more edgy than this show. 3 topics that are sometimes politics, etc. Anyway, everybody, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for listening and spending time with us. We'll see you in the new week, and stay safe.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.